Hey everybody, thanks so much for checking out Better Student Ministry. My name's Mark Freeman and this is Jared Barry, and together we have over 30 years of youth ministry experience.
We hope this resource was a blessing to you and your team. Along with every training video, we've included a downloadable PDF filled with discussion questions for you to wrestle through and contextualize the topic we've discussed. If you guys are interested in doing a deeper dive, we also have a podcast that's available where Mark and I talk a lot more about the topics we've talked about today. You can find us on SoundCloud, iTunes, YouTube, and Facebook by simply searching Better Student Ministry. Hey everybody, welcome back to Better Student Ministry. We're here with another training video. I'm Jared, this is Mark. So glad you guys are with us. And today we've got a big topic to discuss. It's the idea of empowering leaders to lead. So youth pastor, if you're watching this, or maybe you're a part of a youth team, youth leaders are the most important part of youth ministry. Without adults who are willing to pour their life into students, youth ministry wouldn't happen. So we want to talk to you a little bit about what it looks like to help not just get leaders on your team, but to empower those leaders to step up into higher levels of leadership.
Yeah, without the rest of the team in mission with you, in step with you, pointing students to Christ, there will be a serious limitation in the amount of influence you can have. The reality is there's only so much connection that can be done. And so when you take a look at your team, the people that God has put around you, we want to give you some simple things to think about today. Maybe simple in concept, not so simple in execution, but things that you need to be thinking about if you aren't already, so that all of your leaders can be right in the sweet spot of what God has in store for them.
Yeah. I love that. And one of our convictions, Mark and I, as leaders, is that your job as a youth pastor is not just to disciple students, but it's also to develop your leaders.
Yeah.
And so I want to start off and share with you kind of 3 simple words that I used in youth ministry to help me think about what it looked like to develop my leaders. So the 3 words are this: see, speak, and leave. And they kind of work like this. The first one is see, which is the idea of this. As a leader, we have to work hard at seeing the potential in our leaders.
Yeah.
So when I look around at my team, do I see their strengths and weaknesses? Do I just see kind of, they're not great at this, or their personality is kind of like this? Or am I able to look beyond what is present in the moment and see the potential in them?
Yeah.
Can I pull the things out of them and figure out what would they be good at, given opportunities, given me pouring into them, that would help accomplish our mission in youth ministry?
Yeah.
So this is the idea of, are you able to see the potential in your leaders?
Yeah, that's good. And I think what's helpful there too is just in the same way when we take a look at our students and we're like, oh man, there's some giftings here, and there's some, like, again, if you see your team as these are people that God has given me to shepherd as well, then you begin to shape and sharpen and really hone in on whatever potential future gifting God has for those leaders as well. And there's some really cool exponential process that takes place there as well. So having the type of relationship with your leaders where you can speak that truth into them is really important as well, which means it takes a lot of investing in those leaders. You got to be around them. You got to know them to be able to see the gifts that they've got and sharpen those, and the rough edges that need to be smoothed down as well.
Yeah.
It takes time.
It does take time. And one challenge I would give you is to sit down right now at some point with a sheet of paper, list out all your leaders, and start to think through what potential do each one of these have.
Yeah.
Challenge yourself to see the potential, leadership potential in every one of your leaders.
And it's okay if you, as you're looking at that list, you realize, man, there's some people here that I'm thankful that they're on the team, but I haven't really poured myself into or had the vulnerability to allow them to enter into my life as well. And so take that time to be like, hey, I got to shift this relationship and establish it in some new ways.
Yeah, that's great. So the first one is see. The second word is say or speak. And this is the idea of that once you see the potential in them, you have to be able to communicate that potential to them. And in particular, when you're giving them leadership opportunities, you have to communicate your expectations to them.
Yeah.
What are the wins? What are, in your mind, what does it mean for them to be successful?
Yeah.
So whether it's a preaching or speaking opportunity, whether it's running a game, whether it's overseeing an event or a registration process, maybe it's overseeing a whole youth service, right? Whatever the task or the opportunity for leadership is, no matter how big or how small, you have to be able to communicate to them effectively as to what your expectations are, what your hopes are, and ultimately you want them to come out and know clearly, did I succeed in this or did I not? And if not, why?
Yeah.
If we're unwilling to speak, right, or communicate to them, they're not going to be clear on what a win really looks like.
And that's to everyone's benefit. And sometimes you could think to yourself, well, I don't want to micromanage them. Well, communicating clearly is not micromanaging, right? Micromanaging is telling them exactly how everything needs to be done the way you want it to be done. Any team you've ever been a part of, any sports team you've ever been a part of, any production type team you've ever been a part of, when it is moving and working most effectively, it's when everybody knows what their role is. Everyone understands what the expectation is. Everybody knows the goal that we're heading towards. And this needs to be communicated to your team. They need to understand, what am I supposed to be doing now? And it might not always be obvious. And the last thing you want is for them to make assumptions about what they should be doing. Just make it clear, and then everybody wins together.
Yeah. Some great advice I got a long time ago is, let them know on the front end that you're going to have a follow-up conversation with them after. So you say, hey, I'm really excited about you leading our game this week at youth group. I want you to know that following the service or this Friday or whenever, I want to have a follow-up debrief with you. I want to hear what you thought. I'm going to share some of my thoughts. That way, when you do follow up with them, they're not assuming it went terrible or assuming you're picking them out. You're communicating to them, this is so important. I believe in you, and it matters that I want to have a follow-up. I want to find out what you thought and what I thought. I think that's really important.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so we've got see, we've got say, and then the last one is leave. This kind of sounds a little bit weird, but it's the idea that when we're developing leaders, one thing that we need to do is get out of the way.
Yeah.
Oftentimes as leaders, we like to micromanage. We like to say, here's something to do, but really I kind of want to just do it. This is the idea that it's important when we're going to hand somebody some responsibility. And again, we start small and it builds as that trust builds, right? Yeah. But when we hand it to them, we've got to be willing to leave. We've got to be willing to get out of the way and say, I believe in you and I trust you. The worst thing you could do in empowering a leader is to give them something and then hover over them. So what you're saying to them is, I don't actually trust you.
Yeah.
Because what they walk away with and process is, they're saying they want to empower me, but they don't really trust me to do this. So you got to leave as a leader. And in fact, one of the things I would encourage you to do, and I would do this often, is schedule times when you're not even present at all.
Yeah.
So whether it's vacations or other times, do not be afraid, if you're doing your job and empowering leaders, to walk away and go, you know what? I want to see how you guys do running this thing. Now, you got to have the right people in place. You got to be smart about it.
Yeah.
But don't be afraid to leave.
My default mode in my youth ministry was I would do my best. I would try to give those tasks and responsibilities. In my head, I was like, I know the efficient way to do this. I've done it for 15 years. And I would see them start to do something, and out of a genuine desire to want to help them, I would like kind of sweep in and rescue the situation. Like, oh, this is an interesting way of thinking about doing it. I've tried that before. I've been there. I've done that. Tried it this
disaster.
way. And when I became more aware of what I was doing, I could see how easily they could disengage from it. Yep. Or even on the front end, if I did it enough to a leader, they would just kind of wait for me to inevitably sweep in and try to make the adjustment anyhow. And my hope was I was going to help them. I was going to come in. I was going to teach them what I learned. But it actually had a contrary effect in that I was short-circuiting the process of them learning by sweeping in too early, by coming in and trying to be the hero. Not that I wanted the credit for it, but I didn't want them to fail. And in doing so, I short-circuited that process.
Yeah. Sometimes we're so concerned, right, about perfection that we forget that sometimes we just need to leave. And what I would say is, you're not going to be able to empower leaders if you're absolutely concerned or consumed, excuse me, not concerned, that's a good thing, but consumed with everything being perfect, right?
Yeah, no, that's good. I think one thing that can help us the most in kind of hitting those three target areas is to realize, if we're releasing our leaders to lead, if they've been identified as leaders in our group, then how we treat them as leaders is gonna communicate what type of leadership they have. And let me explain that a little bit more clearly. When I'm a leader and I'm giving my leaders stuff to do, I need to delegate responsibility and authority, not just tasks.
Yeah.
Now, some people are more prone to tasks, and that's fine. But if you're not giving authority, if you're not giving leadership with those tasks, then it's just things to do. And we're not really setting them up to lead, not setting them up to make the decisions that need to be made based on their observations of the situation. So when you're giving your team things to do, give it with authority and responsibility that they take on in executing whatever that plan is.
Yeah.
And that changes the mentality of the leader from, I just got to get the job done, to now I'm going to start to think about, how does this affect the people that are responsible? How do I start to think proactively about, okay, we've got an event coming up and I've got some responsibilities to do. What do I need to get in place so that parents are aware of what's happening? What do I need to do so that our students are set up for success? Start thinking about how things, troubleshooting how things could go wrong. If you're just giving them a task to execute, you're not really thinking about all those extra things, and they're not really leading. They're just performing.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think that's so important for youth pastors to understand. If you want to empower your leaders, and the process is messy, it takes time.
Yeah.
But in a year from now, if you want to have a way better leadership team than you do now, that responsibility is on you.
Yeah.
And what that means is, to your point, is not just giving them assignments and tasks that will maybe get the job done, but it doesn't advance them in their potential. It's real authority and empowerment. And one of the things I think, Mark, that you kind of hit on that is so true. Why this is scary is because it's risky, right? Like handing off authority means that I'm risking that somebody won't do it as well as I will. Someone will mess it up. And sometimes even our pride comes in and we think someone may do it better than I will. So those are all things that we have to kind of move forward with, lay down before God and say, God, I'm not going to let my pride or my fear get in the way. I do need to be smart about this. We don't ever want to hand off authority to people that haven't earned it or don't deserve it. But if we're unwilling to hand authority and all we want to do is do tasks, we will never develop our leaders.
Yeah, and in order to be able to hand off authority and responsibility, you better have your end pretty well figured out as well.
Yeah.
So again, what we said earlier, they better know clearly what the expectations are. You can't hand off responsibility and authority and it be last minute and expect them to come through. You got to have yourself organized, have the timeline figured out, so that then they have the breathing room to really suss a lot of that stuff out.
Absolutely. Hey guys, thanks so much for being a part of this. We hope that it's inspired you and challenged you to really think about youth ministry as not just discipling youth, but also empowering leaders to lead. And we believe, Mark and I both believe this, if you start putting some of these principles into place, you could see your youth ministry team grow and change in a profound way. A year, 2, 3, 5, even 10 from now, the leaders that you have will look nothing like they do today because of your work of empowering them. So thanks so much. Feel free to check out our podcast. We do a deep dive in and all the other resources that are available to you. We hope it's a blessing, and we hope we all move forward in creating better student ministries. So thanks, guys. We'll see you next time. Question number 1. Are you aware of the leadership potential that exists in every leader of yours? Take some time now to write down all of your leaders and give one example of some leadership potential that they may have that they're not currently exercising. Question number 2. Do you have a process in place to inform your leaders of your expectations as you give them opportunities? Do they know what the wins are? Do they know what it means to be successful at the responsibility you're giving them? If not, take some time and formulate a simple plan that could work for you and your leaders. Do you have built into your time and your schedule times when you're going to leave your ministry, opportunities where your leaders can lead without you being present? If not, look over your calendar right now, pick out some strategic moments where you can give trusted leaders the opportunity to lead without you actually being there. Question number 4. Think about all the responsibilities that you have in youth ministry. Now, which one of those responsibilities could you hand off to a great leader? Make sure you pair up the leader's ability or potential ability with the responsibility that you want to give them. Thanks for checking out Better Student Ministry. If you enjoyed this content, feel free to share it with a friend. You can always find our videos by searching Better Student Ministry on either Facebook or YouTube. And if you want to dive deeper into the content we discussed today, we've got a podcast available for you on both SoundCloud and iTunes or on our YouTube channel. Please like, subscribe, share it with people who are around you. We hope it's been a blessing to you. If you've got questions or content you'd love us to discuss, feel free to email us at betterstudentministry@gmail.com.